Hey guys, it's Hannah from Bookwormstalk, and this is Right About Now Poetry, and today we're going to talk about Sleepur by Marty Schoenleber III. This is kind of a special book because Marty was the first slam poet that I heard, and so I really got into his stuff. I went through I say all of YouTube, I did not go through all of YouTube. I went through most of the popular videos on YouTube that he was in, and I loved his poetry, and then this was the first book of poetry, like current contemporary poetry, I guess you could say, that I ever bought, and so yeah, such a fan. And first off, I'm going to give a bio on the poet. Marty Schoenleber III is a spoken word poet from Chicago who fell in love with slam poetry late one night in a tiny coffee shop in Vermillion, South Dakota. Through the encouragement of other poets, English professors, and soon-to-be wife, he started writing and performing his poetry on a consistent basis. After a few years and many slams, he began to develop a following through YouTube of more people who encouraged him to write and share his poetry. Marty is also a dedicated actor, as well as an entertaining improv comedian. He trained at the Second City in Chicago, Illinois, and he hopes to someday be a full-time poet, novelist, and filmmaker. And before I start, I want to mention that if this piques your interest, I'll have a place where you can purchase the book, linked down there in the description. So I think you got my opinion on the book already. I've been kind of raving about it. So now I'm going to go through and pick some of my favorite lines. What I really like that he does with the titles of these poems is he has them spelt phonetically, and I think I read somewhere once a while ago, old information may not be correct, that his sister could not spell for shit, and so he got this idea when reading like a grocery list or something that she wrote to do like the titles of poems like spelled phonetically. So I thought that was just really cool. I don't like draw, I don't write in books. It's just a thing that I can't really stomach unless I have like 2 copies. I know, excessive, but I am like that. But this I've gone through and I've just like underlined and underlined. And I have to say my favorite slam of his that I saw, and then when I saw it in the book I was just really happy, it's Propane Poets. I'm gonna read you a couple of my favorite lines. Let's be propane poets. Like, excuse us for burning alive, but we were told you have to be consumed to understand fire. Fire that loves like a child, fire that plays with the wind and the waves and the hearts of men with ease of a rich man and a single dollar. And let's call every bloom a flower, because the only thing that would make them weeds would be if we didn't want them. I had that memorized at one point and it came back to me just now. There's more. See all this? All this is underlined. Still the same poem. I could go on and I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop myself. I know I just hyped up Propane Poets so hard, and it's one of my favorites, but Push is my favorite. I considered getting a few things from here tattooed on me at one point. But I found him in a Colleen Hoover book. He actually wrote a poem that got featured in her book, I guess. So, I mean, big thank you to Colleen Hoover. She's an author if you're unfamiliar with her. I read lots of her books, so if you want to go check out some of my reviews for her things on my channel, you can do that. But this is the first poem that I came across of his, so right here. So this one is called Push. This is for the soul searchers. This is for the songwriter who feels like he doesn't fill the space of what he was meant to be. This is for the depressed, cigarette-smoking chain smokers. This is for the poet who writes 1,000 lines and keeps them all to herself because nobody else deserves to hear them. And I wish it was as easy as exhuming them, pulling the dreams out of their graves and brushing off the dirt till they shine. But it's not. And now skimming down a little further, this is for the wedding planners whose weddings never seem to come. This is for the beautiful girls that somebody told otherwise. This is for the 15-year-old gang member who can't leave. This is for the second place finishers and the C students. This is for the guitar strings never threaded and the scripts never written, and the thrilled voices that never cried hallelujah because they didn't believe they could. This poem always brings me to tears when I see it performed. I read it always. It's just one of those. This was definitely the first poem that ever got me to cry, and it got me into poetry really, really hard. His book is really encouraging. It does have slight religious undertones to it, and I'm not particularly religious, but at the time of my life when I was really low when I first read this, it was just encouraging to hear. And I don't typically, this is gonna sound so stupid, but I don't typically like really positive things. I don't know, I guess I don't feel like I can relate to it as much. There is still one small line from Push. I got off track because I didn't want to cry. But this part I tried really hard memorizing. I remember specifically sitting down and listening and listening and listening because I wanted to just absorb it. I wanted it to become the marrow in my bones, to quote Janet Fitch. And in all of this, I wonder if the big things know how important they are, because I'm a mustard seed and nobody expects me to move a mountain or even cover its slopes in yellow. But I still feel vastly important. So what then? So this is my push that you may never get from another person ever. So listen carefully. Every time, we're just gonna get personal here because I can't get through this without tearing up a little. And again, so this is my push that you may never get from another person ever. So listen carefully. I expect a lot out of you. Pulling myself together, we're gonna go again. Don't be discouraged when you can't cross one line, because you'll pass 100 others learning you can go over there. This is a dare. Go to your fridge. Get out all your eggs and put them in one basket and tell me if you're still incapable. And if you are, go back to your fridge and get all your egg-based products because you missed them. You missed them and you need them and your neighbors aren't lending any ingredients. And when you get there, wherever it is that I pushed you to, don't worry about telling me, because I will notice. I'm gonna walk away from this poem because I swear I just can't not read it without bawling. I remember why I love that poem so much. And that one, because I knew that I liked it when I reread this, I'll be honest with you, I just kind of skimmed over the ones that I knew that I loved and I just read a couple of my favorite lines. And I forgot of that ending. And it hit me hard just now because I haven't read that specific part of the poem in a while. And another one of my favorites that I'm not gonna read from is Turn Your Back on Tomorrow, spelled like crazy. Sometimes I can't even figure out what they are despite that it's phonetic. You Would Not Recognize Me is that's a good one too. Being Found Tasty, I think is what it is. T-A-Y-S-T-E-E. Tasty. Tasty. Yeah, it's tasty. Museum Hearts. Oh man, this is another top 3 favorite. Even if I wanted to, I can't keep pushing yours and my dreams are still fading. And I don't know where they go when they leave or where we bury them because we are burying them. Every time we say tomorrow, we are picking up the gravedigger shovel again. So I'm screaming today. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. And I'll have the 2 slams that I mentioned quite often in this video for Push and Propane Poets, the specific video that I went to and I saw when I first got into this. That'll be linked down there. Don't forget to follow my social media and Juan's social media. I'm just gonna call him Juan. It sounds like Juan, but it's not Juan. It's Juan. Because that sounds different. So I will see you guys later next time on Write About Now Poetry. Bye.